Middle East as much, so I wouldn't be able to.
But this was. I mean, this is like the. My mate Fareed said it was like they were like the Geordies of the Middle East. They're quite wild. It's a port city. You know, they like to party. They sort of like they're almost like the naughty children. And of course, they've been blessed with all this money.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got more money than per capita.
It's quite
They're about $100,000 per capita.
Quite a wealthy society, yeah.
Well, quite wealthy. I think only Luxembourg is ahead of them per capita.
Is that today's statistics, or probably is that like an up to date?
Well, I would bet my bottom dollar, and I'm sorry, I know you guys don't bet, but I would bet that it's Luxembourg and Qatar who are 1 and 2 on the per capita.
He's lived in Luxembourg, actually. He's lived all over, to be fair.
Yeah.
You've lived all over? What are you doing in Luxembourg? That's an interesting place.
It's rogue, isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
it's not rogue, it's Luxembourg. It's got nice buildings and they speak Luxembourgish. What are you doing there? Come on.
So now I've just been travelling, really. Like, I just got the opportunity to. It was like a social media thing, like you're streaming.
Yeah.
So I kind of.
He does a lot. He's quite big on social media, actually. If you check out his channel, he's got, is it like 760 million on TikTok?
Yeah,
How many?
Yeah.
760
million, but I like to keep it low key.
You have to keep it low key. Well, promote laser, because the thing is that people don't seem to understand anymore who represent what. Like, what does Keir Starmer stand for?
Yeah.
What did Rishi Sunak stand for? Why do we keep having different prime ministers, and why do they keep becoming unpopular? This sort of thing.
Yeah.
People don't understand politics and economics anymore.
Yeah,
this is just an open air channel, where you are free to communicate. It's not anything to do with, you can say what you like on it. I mean, apparently you can say what you like on Kick and no one censors it.
Kick's a very good platform, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just got this set up by this woman called Shako, and she's going around Africa at the moment, but I've got nothing to do with her. But like I say, it's the way to build,
Platform.
Well, no, the way to build a society is to realise that, we have people of different faiths and different cultures here now in Britain. It's past tense to say that, post the Second World War, this country has changed radically, and it's how to build the future and ensure that we have a functioning society, because we've got too many people who are extremists around.
It's definitely an important issue to tackle, 100%. And it's nice to.
And I mean, the extremists that my bullseye is the extremists on the right, because they are using theocracy. However, there are extremists who use religion, and I think that religion is a personal choice.
Yeah, no, 100%.
It is a personal choice. There is no compulsion for me to basically believe anything, and there is certainly no compulsion for me to impose it. And you see, the Bible says quite clearly that the law of God is written on our heart. So you've obviously got some big event going today. The speakers are out.
Yeah, no, they were for the prayer and the little sermons.
Okay.
So it's Eid today. So it's like a.
I know it's Eid today.
Yeah,
I saw you all from the church.
Oh, okay. Which church do you go to?
I don't go to that one, but I just saw you.
Oh, okay.
And I've got a bit of time to chill.
That's nice. It was very nice meeting you.
It is nice meeting you, and if you can get some Laser 558 is the Kick channel.
I'm sure you can.
I'll put some words out.
And like I say, Speaker's Corner's just turning in. It's called Laser 558.
I do quite a bit of social media.
One word.
So I'll drop you. I'll drop you a message.
Well, because it's an the thing is, the most important thing is to communicate with what actually people want now.
Yeah.
100%. There are a lot of people around now, and the language. I mean, certainly the language coming from extremists like Corbyn and Farage is too much. Yeah. Corbyn is an extremist.
Would you put Corbyn and Farage as? Would you classify them as extremists?
Well,
Or is that a different?
I think Corbyn is an extremist. Farage, my jury is out. But then there are people to the right of Farage who are basically just simply nuts, and they can't engage in an intelligent conversation. This is what it's about. This country's in a situation where people are saying that there is going to be serious.
So arguably, just to
go on,
I know that I'm not too politically versed, but with Corbyn being on the left,
Yes.
as many would classify him as the left, and Farage on the right,
Yes.
many people would argue that Farage's views and the impact of Farage's politics would have a bigger impact than Corbyn's. Or what is it about Corbyn that you'd say he's more extreme than Farage, for example?
Well, Corbyn has
Just for
been
example.
thrown out of the Labour Party for anti-Semitism.
Okay. Yeah.
You see,
And Farage was also, I'm not too,
I'm not impressed with Farage at the moment. But go on.
Just on both sides. But
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. I mean, I'm not very politically involved in this. It's a very deeper discussion.
Well, it's not a deep discussion. I mean, what makes you left and what makes you right? You've got Corbyn.
Yeah.
Corbyn is feeding into the generational robbery that's been taking place in this country.
Yeah.
There's been generational robbery where basically, you're all in your 20s? Yeah? Where essentially the property market has been taken over by 1.5 generations.
Yeah.
And now you guys can't even afford a house. Now Corbyn feeds into that sort of feeling, and that's why, I mean, I wasn't in the country in 2017. That's why students were rushing to vote for Corbyn.
Okay.
Then basically Starmer becomes Prime Minister and says, I don't want you in my party, and then he kicks him out. And of course Corbyn is popular in his constituency. And you see, Corbyn, my prediction is that I think this Labour government is going to split
into a faction.
Yes, I think that Corbyn is going to. There's going to be another economic shock like we've not seen, and then Corbyn is going to split the party.
Yeah.
There's a potential for Starmer to reach over the floor to other parties to keep Corbyn out of power.
Okay.
And then we will see a political crisis like no other.
That's
that
really
is a bold
it's very
prediction.
interesting. It's very scary to think
No,
about.
but it's not scary if you
For
actually.
many individuals, I think it would.
Yes,
be
but
scary.
it's a lovely day.
I mean, it's not scary.
What this idiot Bob says is he says that the free marketeers and that you've got to be positive. The positive, in order to solve a problem, you have to talk to people. In order to solve a problem, you have to talk to the Corbynistas, because that's their nickname.
And communicate.
And you have to communicate, and you have to talk to each other, rather than basically waving banners at each other and basically. I mean, I've got more dirt on the far right than the socialist workers have.
Yeah, that's impressive. It's very,
I'm gonna bust their arses badly.
I really agree. But also, I was going to say.
But on the other hand, I am not. I do believe that Corbyn has linked, and I don't want to get into a conversation on your festival.
Yeah.
Is that people have a right to basically live in peace, and around the world that's under threat at the moment.
No, 100%.
It's like China's potentially a country I might go to, but in China I couldn't run this channel.
No, of course you've got to be very.
This is the thing, you've got to.
So one thing I was going to say.
They'll shut you down, and the thing is that the China just basically the Chinese have like a pact with their people where they're going to be.
Yeah. So one thing I was going to ask you actually.
Yeah.
It's very important. This is a really important topic that you spoke about today.
Yeah.
What are your, if you have any views on the current situation in Palestine and Israel? Because that's a very important topic that I feel is very close to many people's hearts and it's an ongoing issue.
In short, in 5 minutes, it was under Ottoman rule.
Yeah.
The Western powers propped up the Ottoman Empire for years, fought the Crimean War. That was a significant focal point in the history. And then I can understand the Arab position, because they say that the creation of Israel was a colonial thing, because after the First World War there were 3 broad treaties with the 3 defeated powers. Now that set up the mandate for Palestine. You need to read the history of it. This country has a history of causing trouble, like in the north of Ireland, like in Sri Lanka, and in the case of when we managed the mandate, I think we really messed it up. Like totally. Now again, the history is that we did take census figures, but it was designated as a homeland for the Jewish people. Now the thing is now...
Is it right to kind of arguably take someone else's homeland and occupy that?
Well, I think that is a matter which is debatable, because you see, the thing is that I have to accept that I am predominantly British by birth and sort of culture is that we messed it up. We were in charge from around 1922 to 1949, and we messed it up. Now, then you've got the fact that there are large numbers of people there who are Jewish, and there are large numbers of people there who are Arab. Now, 20% of Israelis are Arab.
What's more troubling? I know about the history and everything. You know, people could stand for years and years going on about history and argue.
Yes, in which case you need to.
But looking at the actual situation today with the actual genocide that's going on, with the killing.
There's genocide going on in Syria at the moment.
There is all around the world.
But you need to define what genocide do you think is taking place, and I'm not going to really answer back because
But I think if without an answer coming back, I think it'd be. But just for
I'll
your
give
viewers,
an answer back.
Just for your viewers, I think it's very important to realise that there's a genocide going on. You know, hundreds of thousands of people are being displaced, forced, occupied, living under occupation, not even afforded their basic human rights, being killed and murdered for what? There's children.
I think it's a tragic. You see, the thing is, the international community got involved in 1919 when the mandate system was set up, and where the French and the British, over a glass of red wine, we drew the modern map of the Middle East. Okay. Now, we drew the modern map of the Middle East and created all the nation states that we all now know and love. Or maybe not. What I'm saying to you is that the international community needs to get together to resolve the situation in Gaza.
So the United Nations, arguably, they've come together. They've already, many countries, many powers have actually labelled this a genocide, and it's not hard to go on social media.
It's not been labelled genocide by the United Nations by a vote of the Security Council.
But that's because obviously
the accusation there is of genocide. But on the other hand,
I think it's very clear, actually, in my opinion.
Well, the thing is, Hamas are a terror organisation as designated by this country's government. Would you agree with that?
So with both sides,
it's like if you've got a situation where when we're talking about the Gaza Strip and the State of Israel and the West Bank, we are talking about very, very tiny territories here. We're not, and that the international community set up these mandates in the League of Nations and the United Nations. It is something for the international community to really sort out, because both communities deserve to live in peace.
Definitely, I 100% agree with that.
But the question is now, how do you bring about this peace?
It's very difficult with the actions of obviously both sides, like you've said, but with the actions of the IDF and Israel and the actual government that are in at the moment, which
again, that's a very big discussion, because there are a lot of as you know, there are a lot of Israelis who don't support Netanyahu, but there are also people. We've got a situation now where in 1994, probably before you were born, Hillary Clinton, you know who she is? She was married to Bill Clinton, and she was very involved. Yasser Arafat tried to make peace, but didn't sign the peace because he told Hillary Clinton, I'm going to get killed if I make this peace. Peace needs to be made between the two sides. And like I say, I refer back to what I said. The problems in those territories now date back to British mismanagement.
With the mismanagement, but in all honesty, I do think with us as a country,
almost complete mismanagement
has been completely,
But you see, the thing is that you've got you've got like a property developer in charge of the United States now. That is possibly a very kind of interesting situation, to say the least. Is that there's got to be do you agree that it's the international community who have to come together to form a peace settlement? It's not,
I think, my honest opinion at the moment, I know it's very deeper and there's a lot more discussion, but at the moment, just to sum it up,
do you think peace would come if Hamas?
And I believe in
I understand that. But do you think peace would come though if the hostages were all released? That's the thing. It's like
the hostages on both sides. So the tens of thousands of hostages that are being held in Israel.
Well, Israel would argue that they are prisoners because they've committed crimes. You see, this is the problem.
Treated differently and held without charge, and children even dying within prison. where, you know, in Israeli prisons where there's, you know, proven by the United Nations, by many, even many Israeli agencies, you know, classifying these as war crimes, as, you know, there's sexual violence, there's violence against sexual violence against children, which has been well documented throughout this genocide.
Okay, but there's also
been going on for, you know, the last over a decade.
I don't know what the Alawites believe in.
So it's a very
the Alawites in Syria. There are allegations that the new regime are going around killing people because they are Alawites or Druze. You see, this is the thing: is that if you go back to what I said, the Ottoman Empire. I mean, now I understand why people in the 1800s were propping up the Ottoman Empire, because they didn't know what would happen. You see, I mean, you've heard of Lawrence of Arabia and things like that.
No, you know what? I think it's.
I mean, I think the key to solving this mess is for people to study the history from all sides.
So I completely agree with you, but with obviously where people will go around, people will believe what they believe. One thing I would just like to end on and summarise on, as human beings, you know, as people, we can look at the history books and see what went wrong, which is definitely a thing we should do. But I think in this, you know, the most obvious thing is in front of our eyes. Have a moral compass. Look at the genocide, and, you know, it's just, it's quite a simple question. Is there a genocide happening?
I don't think there is a genocide happening.
That's all, you know, I think it's blinded then.
I think there is a.
I think it's quite clear and obvious.
The ceasefire has broken. The ceasefire has broken down.
The ceasefire has broken down over many decades.
There was a ceasefire from the. I don't know, it was from December until recently. It's broken down.
But so with Palestine, it was, you know, it's Palestinian land, it's their homeland. It was awarded to a different, you know, the Jewish community, Jewish people, Christian, you know, Israelis, sorry, Jewish people, Christian people, Muslim people have lived in harmony for many years, and it's, you know,
well, there were Jewish communities who lived across the whole Middle East, not just in those territories.
Yeah, I think it's very obvious to see that there's a genocide, and for anyone to kind of deny that, I think there would be, you know, it's just not sustainable to have a conversation with someone who denies that there's openly a genocide. I'm not
denying it. I'm saying that. Do you agree that going over the de facto border and killing people at an innocent festival was an act of war?
And we condemn that, but if you went to go, and I've seen many interviews where people are asked the same question on the other side, and it's very easy to say October the 7th, and, you know, this all started on October the 7th. It predates before October the 7th.
That's what I've just said to you. I've just told you. It goes back to it goes back to around the year 1850.
Do you know what the interest?
Do you see what I mean? It is like it is something which and then the big thing to ask, the big question is that, should the state of Israel actually exist? That's also a big question.
You know, one difference between us is you are talking about the history and completely nullifying and ignoring one side.
Well, trying to correct historical mistakes is a very, very difficult one.
So let's not correct historical mistakes. Let's look at the issue today.
I mean, historical mistakes led to probably the First World War. You see, had the Germans not seized Alsace-Lorraine, then that wouldn't have pissed the French off as much. I mean, we are living with a lot of. We are living in a world where human beings are not always very nice to each other. Do you know what I mean?
But are you local, mate? Live around here?
Yeah.
All right. We got to go somewhere, but we'll carry this conversation on.
One thing I'd say is definitely.
I'll do a live stream on it on this channel if you want to.
And free Palestine.
Well, I think, like I say, the problem now is that you've got a state of Israel there, and what do you do about it?
Both sides, because I think it's easy to look at one side, and like you've referenced October the 7th.
Well, I've referenced October the 7th. I've also referenced that apparently Gaza is a very lovely place and needs rebuilding.
Okay, that's beautiful to say it's a lovely place and needs rebuilding, but we should also look at who's destroyed it in the first place. Yeah. And now moving on from that point, I would also love to, you know, have your opinion on. You've mentioned October the 7th, which we all have condemned, and we think it's a disgusting act of violence. However, how about the massacres and killings, and, you know, arguably on a bigger scale by Israel for many years, for decades before that? You've not referenced any of those. Why is it?
Well, I mean, I've referenced the fact that there was
a piece of paper, legislation mandate.
Who was the?
You're deflecting back to history.
There was a Labour.
No, you're deflecting back to history.
No, there was a Labour Israeli Prime Minister, whose name I forget, offered a peace solution, including
the peace solutions offered,
including either a tunnel or a corridor between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank.
What I want to ask you: do you condemn the actions of Israel and the IDF?
I condemn the act if a military is targeting a building that they know to be civilian, that is genocide. If they are targeting a building where there is military activity going on, then it is military activity. I mean, let's say the Welsh became independent.
You keep
seriously, I'm not overrunning. I'm letting you speak a lot.
No, we appreciate that, but we're giving you some views here.
I understand your views, yeah.
So what we'd like to say is, like Alex mentioned here, the 7 hospitals that have been bombed and many more. I don't know the exact statistics, but I'd urge you just to go onto social media, look up I for Palestine, look at some
journalists go in unsupervised because journalists will do that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's the only problem. But not killing the baby.
No. I have said wait. I said that very clearly. I have said that they are making a mistake doing that because I know for a no. Israel should let journalists in to report this independently.
But there are journalists, so there's another thing. There's Palestinian journalists being murdered and, killed and targeted because they're journalists, because they are openly reporting on this genocide. But it's very.
But you see what both sides are doing.
And just got off. You know what? I think I really.
I've just said to you. I think Israel. Listen to what I said. Should let independent journalists go in and report what is going on. And the allegations of genocide are being made from within Gaza.
No. So the allegations of genocide are being made within Gaza. I'm sure your viewers can go online and check. They're being made from all over the world. South Africa raised a claim in the ICC.
They've raised a claim in the ICC, yes, correct.
And so have many other countries. Ireland have openly spoken about it. Spain
has spoken about it. Yes, it needs to be.
Can you correct your statement?
Right, okay, I'm not correcting my... Whoa, right, listen.
So if you let me finish, can you please then now acknowledge that you made a mistake by saying the claims were only being made within Gaza, and could you now amend that statement and say they're being made all over the world?
Right, okay.
I'm standing here in the UK making that claim.
Right, okay, you're making that claim. Well, I'm telling you that as you know, the borders into Gaza are seriously limited.
Because of Israel?
Well, because you and I...
Is it correct? Sorry.
Can you let me speak? I can't just go into Gaza and live stream.
Calm down.
Yeah, it would also be very... Now, if I were able to go into Gaza and live stream,
then your 7
I would do so. Would see but
that it's a genocide.
I think that I've just given you something that we can agree on. Entry into that territory is controlled by the Israeli authorities, and they are denying independent journalists to go in. Now, it is too nice a day to discuss the allegations made by South Africa and Ireland.
It's never too nice a day because guess what? It's not a nice day.
It's not a nice day in Gaza. Peace needs to come to that region.
Men, women, and children. But no, they won't have tomorrow if it carries on going the way it is. But let me just build on the point you made, right?
Yeah.
So you've obviously acknowledged the point that independent journalists should be let into Gaza and Palestine, which we all. I've
agreed on that. That's good.
It's very easy to take a point we can all agree on. But what I'm telling you, and which you know for a fact, is many journalists within Gaza have documented the horrendous war crimes and the genocide going on. But it's very easy to take a point like you've done, agree on it, and then kind of ignore the bigger situation and the bigger issue which we are talking about, which is
murdering innocents. Hamas went over a border.
So we're again going back to
and murdered. That's what started this.
But that's the actions of a group of a very small amount of people.
I mean, maybe Wells one.
James,
and then also the firing of rockets.
If you let us finish, the firing of rockets. Oh God, okay. So you've now claimed that. I love your controversial opinions because they're crazy.
Not controversial. I'm just asking questions.
It's all started on October the 7th, and Israel have never committed a massacre or a killing of Palestinian people on Palestinian territory before. They've occupied them for many years. If I came into your house, James, and put you in the toilet and said, you stay in there and I'm going to have the rest of your house, would you take that? And if have you got children, James?
Yes.
Okay, and I hate to say it, but if this was your children, if it was you, you'd think completely differently. But because we're sat here, and obviously you you have a very one-sided biased opinion.
I don't have a one-sided biased opinion. I'm telling you
I think it's
that I think the problems we have now are because of mismanagement by the British.
So you're making statements which
Because what the British we were not around in 2025. In 1925, sir.
And
I think it is debatable.
It's your
This is a debate for another time.
We'll have a debate for another time, you want?
You dodged the question.
I haven't dodged the question. I ain't dodged any question.
Very smart in the way you've kind of dodged the
Thank you very much for calling me smart, but I'm saying we cannot solve these problems. I'm telling you the problems date back to 1925 and our mismanagement as the British state.
Our mismanagement.
The British, yes, exactly, which was what we always do, sir. What we always do. I'll tell you what the British do, because I'm not completely British. I reckon. I mean, I'm going to do a DNA test soon. I've got Viking blood in me, hence the height. I've got Irish blood in me, hence the rebellion. But seriously. What the British do is they promise both things to both sides, and those promises cannot be held.
It's not their promise.
And then what we do is we go, oh, tally-ho, they'll be fighting each other, and that's what's been going on. And I would concede to you that there have been bad things committed by both sides. It's as simple as that.
So can I just ask on a final note, because I know we could go on forever.
Because you need to enjoy your holiday.
I really do appreciate your views, and it's been a very intellectual discussion.
And I can't say that I hate the Arab people, having lived in Arabia for 3 years.
No, of course.
It's a great part of the world, and there should be a solution where all sides can agree to live in harmony under a nation-state system, maybe.
And can I ask you on a final note?
Sure.
Do you condemn the killings and the massacres of innocent people, innocent children?
I've already said if it can be proven.
So they're not dying. So the numbers are fake, and
so that
and the videos of children being beheaded by bombs and ripped to pieces, and the bodies that you're seeing on social media are all fake.
Well, the war needs to end.
Okay. I think
the war needs to end. I can agree with you on that.
See, again, I love what you do, James. You take one statement which we can agree on, and you ignore the fact that I've just asked you about the killings of
well,
innocent
you said
children.
you've got my channel. We'll do a debate one night.
I would love to. But James, I think there is no sustenance in debating with someone who has this opinion. And our opinion, you're a very smart man, James.
The Jews and the Arabs lived in peace until the end of the First World War.
Problem. But what I got to say, James, is you're a very smart person, and clearly.
Do you support Hamas?
Of course, no. I can definitely say that to you, but you can't.
That's good.
Do you support the Israeli idea?
If there can be proven, then the international court needs to examine it.
So can I just say, David,
it needs to be examined.
Okay. Yeah. So, James, I would say you're a very smart person on that note. However, you're not smart enough to actively.
What makes a military target then?
What makes a military target? Definitely not a hospital.
If you then fire rockets from the hospital, does that make it a military target?
Can the international court? Will Israel allow the international court to examine?
Well, I think this is a lot more in depth than a Sunday morning conversation.
I love that.
I cannot pull the data on. There's a rocket launch. Where was it launched from?
Why would you make that statement, James?
And of course,
James can't pull the data that he's made a statement that rockets are being launched from hospital.
Rockets are being launched from the Strip. You know that. I know that.
But also, weapons, bombs are being dropped every single minute.
It's like there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We were lied to by our government and George Bush.
We're being lied to.
Well, no, I admit that we were lied to over Iraq. I think it is a.
We would never lie about anything else.
We would never lie about anything.
Kick would never lie, would they?
Anyway, you know what?
You have a nice day.
You have a nice day, but you know what?
Nice meeting you, mate.
One thing is, I would say it was a great discussion. I will shake.
It is a very.
One thing I'll say is
we can have a discussion on it.
I hope your followers know that you.
They're not my fault. They just happen to be. They like me going to the. They like me going to the park.
Let me finish, please. Thank you. So you, as a father, as a human being, cannot stand in front of me with a moral with just a simple moral statement.
No, you should not go targeting innocent people in a war. You should not do that.
Thank you.
But I'm saying to you that the proof is debatable.
It's not debatable.
Okay, that's good.
It's debatable for certain people like yourself who want to believe a certain thing, who have a certain agenda. But however, if I'm telling you, if you're seeing, it's not me telling you, it's well documented. Children, but innocent people altogether are being murdered, right? And you can't condemn that, but you can stand here and say, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn October the 7th? However,
wars are wars. In wars, innocent people get killed.
Okay. In wars,
but this isn't even a war. It's literally just a genocide.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. But you know what, James? You can deny that, and
I'm not denying. I'm not confirming or denying.
Let me give you an example. Yeah.
Wait, where's everyone gone? Are you going home again, or is it prayer time or something?
Can I give you an example? Yeah.
You've ruined it.
You got to change your prayer time now because of daylight saving. It's 1 o'clock now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So imagine me and cousin here. We have a fight. Yeah.
Oh, don't do that.
Imagine we have a fight, yeah, and one of us backs down and goes, okay. Like,
yeah, it's wrong to then go and...
He's beaten, he's down on the floor, and he's bruised, he's blooded, and I just keep pounding at him. That's exactly what's happening.
Thank you.
That's not a fight, that is just a battering.
Thank you.
And the battering is the genocide. That's the genocide.
And imagine
but October the 7th still carries on because they're still holding hostages. The taking of hostages is an act of war.
Of hostages is an act of war. Well, what about the tens of thousands of hostages in Israeli prisons that are being tortured, using violence, using sexual violence against children? There's thousands of children in Israeli prisons, hundreds of children, sorry, I don't know the exact figure, and I'm not going to, claim to your kick.
There are allegations on both sides.
Okay, so there's allegations now.
But what I'm trying to say to you is, how do you solve the problem then? How do you solve this problem?
He won't listen. So
I am listening. How do you solve the problem of the Israeli state and the Arab?
All right.
It's really important.
Imagine we go to war with Germany again, yeah? Imagine we go to war with Germany.
Well, there's no chance of that, but never mind. But we did, yeah.
Hypothetically, yeah?
Yeah, we did.
You live in London, right?
Yes, where they bombed the
children, right?
nonsense out of us.
Yeah, imagine the war, we've stopped, okay?
Yes.
We've clearly been beaten. And they keep dropping bombs on hospitals, schools, churches, mosques.
Well,
and like, say for example, like so many people have lost their kids. You would sit there and call it a genocide.
Okay,
but you're not there. That's why your opinion.
It is a fact that Hitler knew from around 1944. He knew after 44 he was militarily defeated. He knew he was going to lose. No. Is that the obligation on Germany? And the reason why there was an assassin, there's a good film. If you want to watch a good film, watch Valkyrie.
Because they're Palestinian. That is why you.
No, I'm not. I'm just telling you. The Arab people are a lovely people. The two sides need to make peace.
Okay, statements we can agree on.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pulling it forward to how do you bring about it?
What's the difference between a Palestinian child and your child?
Yeah.
There's no difference. They're both childs of God.
But then, if your child was in Gaza right now and it was your family going through that, what would you say?
I would be asking Hamas to release the hostages.
And so not Israel,
which is actually the official position of Keir Starmer.
Not Israel, who've got the tens of thousands of Palestinians in Israeli prisons held without charge. Children trialed under military courts. Is that acceptable? But you know what? One thing about you, James, is you're very good at just completely ignoring that one side, and we've all seen that.
I'm not ignoring it,
and you completely ignored it.
I'm not ignoring it. I'm saying is that if there are allegations
again,
they need to be put to the appropriate court. It's like if there's allegations.
Have they not been put to the ICC?
Yes, they have. But you see, then there is a.
But if what Israel says is gospel, so whatever you said.
No, I don't. I don't agree that what Israel says is gospel.
Can I end on one thing? James, before we get
I don't agree. See, the thing is that
just to say, you keep saying we need to. You keep saying to solve the problem. Just make your statement again. What was your thing to solve this problem? What do we need to do?
I think there needs to be peace talks between the whole region.
And before that happens, James,
there needs to be a ceasefire, and there needs to be
Before that happens, James, before any of that happens, it takes the basic thing of people like you to stand there.
But you're saying people like me.
No, I'm just saying because we've expressed our opinions, James. It would just take you to stand there and say, yes, there are innocent babies, men, women.
There are innocent people being killed, and that's wrong. Whether it's intentional is a matter of debate.
Guys, it's not intentional that innocent people are being killed.
No, it's not intentional dropping bombs on hospitals.
No, it's not
killing tens of thousands of kids. It's all right.
It's okay.
Back in the war, there were the V1 and V2 rocket. Yeah, Hitler's last weapon was the V and the 1 and the V2 rocket. No, I'm not.
We're going to now agree that you're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
time.
boys are
for
out
all
of
the
here.
views
I think
that
we
are
should
there.
have peace in the region.
Again, a statement we can agree on, but
It's
completely
really good that we
ignored,
need peace. I'm not ignoring anything.
And I agree with you. We should have peace, and you know
We
what?
should have peace, and there needs to be a positive forward
I really
discussion.
appreciate you, going through your opinions. And,
I'm not going through the opinion. It is a
No.
matter of fact that Hamas want the destruction of the state of Israel.
And Israel and the IDF want the destruction of Palestinians all around.
Well, they don't want rockets being fired into their territory.
I'm sure Palestinians don't want.
We
that.
would not, the
James,
humble residents of Maidenhead would not like it if there were rockets being fired.
Thank you, James. And the humble resident of Maidenhead wouldn't
Which you
like
are.
it, which we are, wouldn't like it for someone to come in and occupy our land, okay, and then force us, torture us, attack us, kill us. Innocent people for what? Living in their land, just displace them. The forcible occupation and the settlements, the illegal settlements.
Well,
which
you
are
see,
all over,
yeah, but then you've
which,
got-
If you just go onto Piers Morgan's.
Piers Morgan, God.
And you can have a look uncensored. You can have a look.
Don't put me off my. What's his position on the matter?
We're not agreeing on his, we're just agreeing on his channel, which has a lot of open debate as a platform.
Well, you do
so
need-
I'm not advocating on Piers Morgan or his opinion in any way.
My own view is if it was 1925,
Yeah.
I would be saying that we mismanaged the situation and let.
Look, I'm not,
But we
I
did.
appreciate you saying we did. We can agree on
And
that.
the question
but
is,
I'm
what
not-
do you do about
James,
it now?
What I'm not going to do is we can say that, but we can't do anything if you don't acknowledge the simple fact
That there's been wrong on both sides,
that
correct.
war crimes are being committed and there's a genocide being committed. And I'm going to end on that note, James.
There is when we fought the Germans, there were war crimes on both sides.
I'm going to end it on this, and that was not right. And
It's not right.
Now we can openly look back and say
We
there were
can.
war crimes on both
We've got
sides.
to do that.
So
Yes,
why can't you do that
absolutely.
for Palestinians? Why
Because
can't you?
I want to see the evidence. I've given you an opportunity for a live stream. How do you contact me on this channel, by the way?
Can you see? I'll contact you. But
Do you want my number?
Can,
I'm in the stream here.
And can I see? The fact is.